After a dominating drive last time out at North Wilkesboro Speedway for the 1-Up Superstar Series by points leader Myles Mashburn to get that long-awaited win. We don't expect that to continue at Atlanta, though, because anything can happen here at this new style of racing. It's been a big change since we were last here, but we are here at the all-new Atlanta Motor Speedway for 82 laps around this high-banked, high-speed, high-draft, 1.5 mile oval. And for race number 27 of the season, we're at that point already. It's been a long year. We're happy to bring it to you here, and I'm just looking forward to this race more and more the more I talk about it. Alongside me in the booth for today's race is Ryan Griffin, just as it was yesterday, and well, after what we saw yesterday, there's a lot to look forward to, especially for the superstar drivers who got a chance to race yesterday.
I, for one, cannot wait to see these cars on this configuration of this racetrack. This racetrack, Atlanta has basically become a narrow version of Daytona, and this should be fun to watch.
Absolutely. We have 42 cars lining up on the grid today, and every single one of them will have a shot at claiming victory when it's all said and done after the end of these 82 laps. As we look now at the starting lineup for this race, we've seen it every race so far, and we've seen it again here today. Our 27th different pole sitter of the season, and Duke Ansack becomes the last of our playoff drivers to earn a pole position this season. He lines up alongside rookie fill-in driver Ramian Fisher, who plants the number 93 on the outside pole. Henry Thomas and Nelson Reeves make up row 2, with the next highest playoff driver being Christian Vargas in 5th. Now, Vargas needs a really good day today after all the points he lost to Myles Mashburn last week. Now, Vargas is in a 21-point deficit with only 4 races to go. He needs something big to happen. This very well could be the day for him to make it happen.
As we saw yesterday, this track and the racing we could see on it, any one of these, anybody in the field really could win this race today, depending on if the pack will stay together. But I'm ready to get this thing going. I'm ready to see these cars on this track. I'm ready to see what these drivers can do. And maybe they can top the finish we saw yesterday.
They very well could, you know. These are the best of the best going at it for 82 laps here at Atlanta. So, with that being said, the cars are all lined up on the grid. We are ready to bring you 82 laps of racing action. This is the 1-Up Superstar Series from Atlanta, and the green flag is mere moments away, so stay tuned, because you're not going to want to miss a second of what's to come over the next 82 laps. Field rolling off of turn 4, heading towards the restart zone. Duke Ansack and Ramian Fisher on the front row. Green flag is out, and we're underway for 82 laps at Atlanta. It looks like it's pretty even on the front row, but this is just going to be a very interesting battle, diving it off into turn 1 for the first time, because neither lane has that much help coming behind it, so it's going to be a battle of who has the most horsepower, and so far, it looks like the 83's got it.
Well, we saw this as a national race yesterday that it really didn't seem like either lane had an advantage until we got into a run, and then it seemed like everybody would run at the top of the track and then get single file. So I have to see if that continues to play with these cars. As the 8 car of Henry Thomas, who ran yesterday's race, now trying to see if he can. Nope, Anzac will lead lap 1. As here comes Vargas down on the inside in that 54. He wants to see if he can take the point. Looking inside the 8 as the 8 takes the point.
And Vargas needs every point he can get, as it looks like Zachary Fitzwater bounced off the wall off of turn 2. He keeps it going. No harm, no foul. There you see him at the back of your shot there. But Christian Vargas needs every lap he can. Oh, they're going 4 wide at Atlanta. That's going to be very sketchy. And they're bouncing off each other on the front straightaway. Somehow, they make it work. Incredible car control from everybody involved. But as you can see, Christian Vargas did lead that lap, and he needed to do that, because after the thrashing Myles Mashburn put on the field at North Wilkesboro, Vargas needs every point he can. The problem with this is, the 72 is right there behind him, and now is going for the lead himself.
Yeah, this is what you're going to see, the shuffle as we see here in this style of racing. But it'd be interesting to see, again, we saw a bit of a shuffle yesterday. But again, we mentioned it in yesterday's race, we did not see the major shuffle back that we've seen. So this could not be necessarily bad news for Vargas that he's going to get shuffled here a little bit. He may be able to stay up here as Mashburn does take the lead, and now it looks like Ortiz in the 91 is going to try to get the lead.
And it looks like at the stripe, Mashburn leads it by a hair as they barrel off into turn 1. Something's gone wrong with the 91. He's fallen well off the pace. Could this be the end already for Nick Ortiz on just lap number 5? He's got a significant problem with that Blue Emu Ford, and moments after he made a move for the lead, his race is over. Just like that. The highs and lows of 1UP Superstar Series racing right there.
And that is unfortunate because he was just taking a lead, but this is a break for Vargas. Vargas takes the point from the point leader and takes the lead here.
And don't you just love how this series works itself out sometimes? We've got the 2 championship contenders with a massive lead over everybody else. This is what we wanted to see. The 2 guys heading the points table, going at it for position, back and forth. You see Mashburn now make a move on Vargas for the race lead. It looks like they're going to come off of 4 side by side. Mashburn's going to lead to the stripe. We'll see what the gap is between them and Henry Thomas. It looks like it's stabilized at 1.2. I think, though, that the pack is going to close in on these 2 in a hurry, not if they're side by side like this.
It'll be interesting to see if the pack can run these 2 down because they are pretty much by themselves. They really don't have any other help other than each other. But again, this is Atlanta. This isn't Daytona. This isn't Talladega. We've seen some similar attributes that you'd see to the super speedway racing here, but it'll be interesting to see whether or not the pack can run them down as strongly as we will see at Daytona and Talladega.
But as things run right now, you see it, the pack is closing up on these 2 as Vargas and Mashburn continue to battle it out. Remember, every point is valuable for these 2. Mashburn with a 21-point lead going into this race, but Vargas could claw it all back with a strong run here today as Vargas retakes the point as 41 cars still running in this race. Nick Ortiz done for the day with that unfortunate mechanical issue that sidelined him just 5 laps in, but we'll see him again in Texas next time out. Hopefully he can have a strong showing there. And you can see it now. The pack has fully caught these 2, and now the race is on.
Battle is on. It looks like Vargas could have some Toyota help, manufacturer help coming this way, but it looks like the 00 is instead going to duck to the inside. Sam Donato looking maybe for the lead here in turn 1. It looks like he will, as he's going to be followed by the 92 of Jeffrey Finguy.
And wouldn't you believe it?
Only 8 cars off the fence in 2.
He's going to lose a little bit of momentum. He should be able to keep going now with a little bit of help. But look at Keon Daly, 3rd car on the outside in the 71. He was in the national race yesterday. The difference is that's his full-time ride. He's doing this one for fun and for extra track time, and he's making the most of it, currently running in the 4th position, with Vargas directly ahead and McMillan directly behind.
As they are side by side with the lead, Donato trying to get the lead from Mashburn. The 00 inside the 72. We'll see which line prevails here.
Because the outside line has more cars in it, but the inside line looks like it's got the better grip early on in the race. So Donato does lead that lap by a smidgen over Myles Mashburn. I think Christian Vargas behind him. I think he'd rather be pushing any of the other 40 cars in this race, other than the 72. So you can see him trying desperately to get out from behind the 72, try and help someone else, because he does not want that 72 car to gain any more points on it.
Well, the problem for Vargas is the fact that he can't really duck out. I mean, there pretty much is it's pretty much 2 lines at this point. There's not really a 3rd line that's formed at this moment. So he's pretty much stuck basically right behind the car that he needs to be.
We'll see if there's an opening later on in this race, but as things run right now, Finguy tried to clear himself on Mashburn. It almost resulted in catastrophe, but Finguy does now clear to 72, and now Vargas is going to make it 3 wide on his championship rival. Mashburn dangerously close to the wall. Vargas backs out of it. Very smart from him. And now we've got a new challenger up the front. Cale Sescar Jr., the longtime regular season points leader, making a run at 2nd around Finguy.
And again, as we're starting to see, as we saw in the race yesterday, that shuffle up front. Usually, but by the same token, it's by the same guys we saw that have been up front here since the start of the race. So it's not like we're seeing the major shuffle, but we are seeing somewhat of a shuffle.
Certainly the case as Sam Donotto continues to lead the way at Atlanta. Remember, he has the super speedway win this season. He got it in the summer race at Pensacola, but this is a very different beast from there because you're not running nearly as fast. Oh, it's Mashburn.
Was in the fence.
Yeah, Mashburn.
He got it 1 and 2.
Yeah, Mashburn scrubs the outside wall. He's going to lose out big time. Vargas finally gets out from behind the 72. Doesn't look like there's any damage to the Zaxby's Chevrolet, but he's going to lose a lot of track position. He was running 5th. Now he's going to struggle to even stay in the top 10.
And it's the same thing we've seen between both races here, both today and yesterday. It's a car gets stuck out wide, catches the wall off turn 2, they'll lose a couple spots, and then they just continue on. So it's like we're seeing the pattern develop. Meanwhile, at the front, Donotto leads as we got the fight for second.
Yeah, Finn Guy and Tescar.
Oh,
and Vargas now into the wall as well off of turn 4. So Vargas is going to lose out to his teammate Devin Fair and potentially to Lane Sanders as well. Vargas now dropping back into the clutches of Mark Davey, and Myles Mashburn is still lurking back there. As long as the 72 can keep the 54 in sight, this will be a good day for Myles Mashburn.
We continue. Donotto continues to lead. Finn Guy looks like trying to make the inside work, but he could do nothing but get alongside Tascar for second, as they are 3 wide basically for 4th.
Yeah, Keon Daly in the top, Devin Fair in the middle, and Jake McMillan on the bottom. This is going to be very interesting because you don't want to run 3 wide here if you can help it. Man, Keon Daly got close to that outside wall, but he stays off it. But I think we've got a real challenge on our hands to Sam Donotto, and it's from this 02 car, Cale Tescar Jr. He looks very fast this race.
Back pretty much together here still, as there's a little gap. Not that big a gap, maybe a couple car length gap between the front 2 and this little 4-car group, and then another couple car gap back to, well, pretty much which is the rest of the pack.
It's all just it's all just a balancing act, trying to keep your car in contention at the end. You don't want to risk tearing it up too early, because then you won't be in a prime position when it really matters, because they don't give out points on lap 19 or lap 20. They give out the points on lap 82, and that is what these guys are all chasing. But it's Cale Tescar Jr. out in the lead right now, with Devin Fair giving him a little bit of help to clear Sam Donotto. Tescar with the lead.
What's more interesting at this point is our top 2 of the championship are not in the top 10 at the moment, after they're both, I guess you could say they're moments. They're both outside the top 10 at the moment as we come to complete lap 20.
I think Vargas, though, I think Vargas is actually going to get back in the top 10 here. Yes, he is. He's back up to 9th. So Vargas doing his part. Mashburn, to his credit, is staying within striking distance. So these two not out of it yet, but they got a lot of ground to make up.
But what will be interesting to see is what we saw in yesterday's race as the run went on, as these cars, burned off their tires, burned off fuel. The line moved up to where they would run single file, and they'd run basically the top. It seemed like the top was the preferred line. So we'll see if that continues here with these cars here today, if we see the same thing or not, as Donotto looks like he's going to try to retake the lead from Cascar. He's got no help.
And that might make the difference right there, because everybody behind him, no one's behind him. Everybody's up on the top of the racetrack. Finn Guy pushing Tescar to the lead once again. We complete lap 22, coming to 60 laps to go. And here's a big battle on our hands for it. It looks like the 6th position between actually 7th now, between Lane Sanders and Dylan Young, making a part-time appearance this season, as Davey scrubs the wall up off of 2. And he doesn't even lose that much time because he got off it quickly, and that's very critical for Mark Davey to stay within the lead group. He's run 6th.
Right now, this lead group, as you said, there's 6 cars here. Lane Sanders leads that second group, trying to catch him. Looks like they will get back together here, as it is Tascar leading Finn Guy and Fair. Donato battles the 71 for 4th. And you got Davey and Sanders back there, and yeah, pretty much we're seeing the same thing today that we saw yesterday. These cars that will run for a little bit, then they'll get kind of single file in this little group here. And of course, we had a caution in yesterday's race that kind of bunched the field back together, so we will see a little bit more pack racing late in the race, but we'll see what happens here as we complete lap 24.
Daniel Bouchard is the one with the fastest lap of the race so far, and he needs as many points as he can get. He entered this race last of the playoff contenders, 143 points out of the lead. He faces championship elimination at this point. He needs a very strong day to stay in the title fight at this point in time. But up at the front, it's Cale Tescar Jr. leading two more playoff drivers, Devin Fair and Jeffrey Finguy, who are currently battling side by side for second.
What's going to be interesting here is we got, I guess you could say, somewhat manufacturer alliance here. You got two Toyotas, or basically three Toyotas here, two of which are in the playoffs, and then you have two Fords. And then you have another Toyota that, again, that's not the playoffs, the 00, and then you have the Dodge of Sanders that pretty much is, I guess you could say, on their own here among these top 7, but...
They do have one other Dodge in the top 10, Bobo Jones in the 04 running 10th, but no Chevrolets to speak of in the top 10. I believe the highest one of those is Myles Mashburn. So, bit of a two-team battle at the front, but you never know. We still got a lot of racing still to go. Anything can still happen in the final 55 laps of this race.
But again, it'll be interesting to watch to see how the pack reacts and how the field reacts as this run goes. As we saw yesterday, it seemed like as they got single file, they gravitated their way to the top, and the top again appeared to be the preferred lane. So we'll see if that continues here. I know Finguy's kind of made a couple peaks, it looks like, on TASCAR, but again, has not had the help to really make a move on the 02 at the moment.
So I think they're at this point they're content to run single file, because remember, Cale Tescar Jr., while leading this race and gaining a lot of points for doing so, is burning up a lot more fuel leading this train than, say, Devin Fair or Keon Daly in 3rd and 4th running in their slipstream. So it's gonna be interesting, because for once this season, I don't think the undercut is going to work as well. I think you want to stay out as long as you can, because the tires don't seem to be falling off nearly as much as we anticipated they might.
Yeah, that may be the case, but the other thing that I've noticed, again, we saw it in yesterday's race, I think handling is going to be a premium, and I think the tires may not be a factor, but I think if you can get in and get the newer tires, maybe get a little more handling adjustment, I don't know, it might be worth it pitting sooner. We'll see. But as Fair is now going to look to the inside of Finguy, I don't know if he's going to not really going to have the run here. So I think he's just going to end up remaining in 3rd.
Yeah, he fades back up to the top, and the status quo remains intact. But we're on lap 31 now. We're about a third of the way through this race, and the field's pretty strung out at this point as we see Mark Davey on the bottom lane. Sanders trying to get around him for the 5th spot. So a lot of racing still to come, and a pit stop still to come. So this race is by no means over. We've got a lot of variables still to be determined here.
And like I said, I still think the preferred lane at the moment is going to be to run the top. That's why you see the leaders pretty much running the top. But nobody really... We've seen a couple ducks. Obviously, the 51 affair has made a couple attempts, as the 92 I know has kind of looked on the 02, but not made any serious run on them. And Davey, of course, was down there on the bottom. Looks like he's going to lose that spot to both Sanders and the 00 Donato. So, again, the top lane, as the tires wear, as the fuel burns off, appears to be the preferred lane to run at the moment. As we remain pretty much, I think we're now pretty much single file back to Davey in that 01.
Yeah, at this point, I think everybody's just content to ride, because we're closing in on half distance. We're about 8 laps away from that. And we're quite a ways away from the pit stops. So, at this point in time, I don't think anybody's in a real big hurry to make moves. I think Teskar wants to be actually second or third behind a few cars to try and save a little fuel. But as long as he's out in front leading laps, he's taking points away from his main championship rivals. And that is key. Because Teskar entered this race 9th in the points, 72 off the lead. He needs a big day, and he's having one so far.
And from what we've seen through the 2 days, it appears that being the leader is not necessarily a detriment at the moment. Yes, you're burning more fuel running up front, but you also seem to be able to hold off any charge that comes at you, as you see Fair now looking to the inside of Finn Guy yet again, but I do believe he's at a detriment at this moment, because nobody is down there with him, so I believe Finn Guy's going to hold him off, unless Fair might have a better handling car at this point.
It's going to be
close. This is just going to allow the O2 to kind of pull away a little bit.
And now Lane Sanders is going to try and give Devin Fair a little help on the bottom of the racetrack. So Sanders now side by side with Daly for 4th, and Fair side by side with Finn Guy for 2nd. Oh, that's a quick chop, but Fair slots back in 3rd, now leaving Sanders on the bottom with a lot of work to do to get back up high.
Yeah, I think that was just, again, another example of Fair knew he really didn't have... Well, he did have Sanders down there, but he really didn't have enough of a run that he really wanted to get to Finn Guy, so he tried to slide back up, and he almost took the nose of the 71 car off, but it did end up paying off for him in the end as he retains the 3rd position. Looks like Sanders is going to retain 4th, and now Donato is stuck down on the bottom.
That's actually a net gain for Lane Sanders. He was running 5th, now he's running 4th. So he actually passed the 71 doing that. So you can make passes from the bottom. You just need a really good car to do it. And I think that 41's pretty good.
Well, I think it was a matter of yes, he had the run on the 71, but he also had the 00 duck down there too, and was basically following him. So he had the help from the 00 to be able to get that position on the 71.
Regardless, a nice move.
It was a nice move, yeah, regardless. In the top 3 right now, single file on their own. Then you have Sanders and the 41. Because I think the 71 and 00 are still side by side. I think the 71 might have cleared him by now, so I think the 71 holds down 5th.
And actually, Dylan Young's gotten past Sam Donato as well to move up into the 6th spot, so the 00 falls back to 7th. Out in front, though, Cale Teskar Jr. continues to dominate this race, with Jeffrey Finn Guy and Devin Fair in hot pursuit, quickly approaching half distance.
And what's also interesting to note right now is the top 3 cars are playoff cars. Then you have a couple of non-playoff cars. You got the 41, which we've mentioned, the 71, the 29, and the 00.
And the 93 as well.
And the 93.
And then behind them, you have the 2 championship contenders of Vargas and Mashburn. As Donato slides along the wall off of turn 2, he's going to lose 8th to... he's going to lose 7th to Randy Fisher.
Add the 00 to the list of victims that have scraped the wall in 1 and 2 between the 2 races this weekend. So I guess you could say that's the new Atlanta stripe, I guess you could say, because it seems like we've seen a lot of cars do that this weekend.
Very true. As you see Mashburn lose 10th spot to Mark Davey. That's a critical spot, because Mashburn needs as many points as he can to hold on to his lead, as Lane Sanders has now caught the top 3. This is a 4-car battle for the lead now.
And actually, from what I'm seeing, this 41 car is looking pretty racy here. He's got a pretty good hot rod to be running where he's running, and has been the only car to really make passes in this top 10 that we've seen. So we'll see if they can maintain that, as the rest of this race goes on, as we're approaching the 40 lap to go mark.
And remember, Lane Sanders finished 6th at North Wilkesboro last week, so he's on a bit of a momentum run as of late. And he's up to the top 20 in points as well. He's trying to jump another spot up to 19th. He's doing a pretty good job right now. He just needs all the dominoes to fall his way for a change. But out in front, Cale Teskar Jr. continues to lead. We've got 40 laps to go now. And the second half of this race, I fully expect, will be a lot more interesting than this first half. As interesting as this first half was, I expect the second half to top it.
Yeah, we'll see as these tires wear. We'll see if we get these guys, if they'll get a little more racy here before the pit stop. I mean, we've seen a couple of ducks for position. We've seen a couple of passes, obviously, but nothing among the leaders at the moment. But thought I saw, I don't know if we're getting close to lap traffic yet. I'm not, I don't believe we are.
No, because the 41st place car is Felix Anderson, and he's only 9 seconds off the lead. So if there's going to be lap traffic in this race, I expect it to come after the pit cycle has cycled its way through completely. So these guys don't have to worry about much right now. They're pretty content to just ride it out in the lead. Cale Tesco Jr.
I will bring up that I've just noticed too, Sanders kind of dropped off these top 3, and Fair has actually caught these 2. So obviously a little shuffle there, as it looks like we had them close a little bit, or Fair closed a little bit to the 92, but not close enough to really help the 92 in any way.
And believe it or not, at this point in this race, Cale Tesco Jr., despite the amazing season he's had up to this point, he's led more laps in this one race than he has in the previous 26 of all of this season combined up to this point. So a very strong run for Cale Tesco Jr., who's having the drive of his season right now. He did get that win at Monza, but he didn't lead a lot of laps that day. So he's having a pretty good day out in the lead right now, as is Dylan Young, running in 6th place. He's making the jump up to this series full-time next year. This is, I believe, one of, if not his last race of the season before focusing on his National Series Championship bid. Yeah, he has one more race after this one. But he's still doing a fantastic job at any rate, running in that 6th position, beating a bunch of superstar veterans.
And we do our little, I guess you could say, the little update on the top 2 of the championship. Right now, Vargas running P9 and Mashburn running P11, just 2 spots behind him. So it's like they're both kind of doing what they're supposed to do. Vargas, I'm sure, wants to be higher in the running order than the 72, but they're both kind of running within the top 11 there, you know, still having decent runs. But with, you know, you got Taskar and Finn Guy up here along with Fair, the top 3 running, highest running of the playoff guys. Obviously 1, 2, 3 in the race as well, but
although keep in mind, when this race started, these 3 were 9th, 10th, and 11th in points. Teskar, Fair, and Finguy in that order. So they're not really in contention for the championship at this point, although a good run here could very well change that. But these guys needed a strong day to get back in the title fight, and right now, they're having a blast out in front.
I can see this developing. It looks like Fair might try to make another run at Finguy, but he could end up losing 3rd to Sanders, as Lane with the run around the outside, I think, is going to get this 51 for 3rd.
And not just him either, but the 71 of Keon Daly is going to try and follow in the Dodge's tire tracks to try and get around Devin Fair. So Fair makes one move, one ill-timed move, and it might cost him 2 spots.
And that's what I've been saying about what we've seen between today and yesterday, that it appears as the run goes that the outside lane is the preferred line to make moves. And while, yes, it looks like you can make a pass on the inside, you need help to be able to make that pass. And Fair really didn't have anybody with him. And as you can see, he lost 2 positions out of it.
So now Lane Sanders up into the podium places here at Atlanta, looking for his best finish of the season so far. Up to this point, his previous best was a 4th at Denver on the Oval back in June. So he's looking to better that here today as Ramian Fisher gets freight trained on the top. It looks like Christian Vargas is going to move up into the 8th position. Myles Mashburn still stuck in 11th. Green flag pit stops are fast approaching, though. We've got about maybe 9 laps away from those happening. And I fully expect Teskar to be the first one to jump.
Yeah, because he is burning the most fuel leading the pack. But again, I'm not sure if that's going to be that big a detriment, being the first to pit. I mean, you want to try to get your adjustments as soon as you can. Again, we'll see what happens once the stops obviously cycle, which one appears to be the more, or which one you can kind of gain the advantage on. This Finn guy really has not left the back bumper of that 02. While he's not made a move on him, he really has not lost any ground to Taskar either. He's been able to stay right against that back bumper, stay right with him. So, again, if Finn guy can just stay with this 02 through the pit stop, keep himself a contender, it may not be over for him yet.
And we know these cars can make it the rest of the way on fuel after their stop because we are well past the halfway point by now. And we now only have 30 laps to go from Atlanta. So these guys are just hanging out for now, waiting for the pit stops to cycle through. And once those are done, then the race really begins.
Then we'll also be able to know who exactly is going to be contenders in this as well, because a good pit stop here can make you a contender. A bad pit stop can take you out of it. So as it looks like Dylan Young is another victim to the turn 2 wall brush.
And he will lose at least 2 spots by doing that. He will fall back to 8th. That's another spot for Christian Vargas critically. The 54 now up to 7th. Myles Mashburn in the 72 still stuck in 11th. But that should be okay, because it's only 1 point per position, and as things run right now, Mashburn would still have a 17-point lead heading to Texas.
That pit stop to go as Sanders now closes to the back bumper of Finn Guy.
And these two have a history, remember.
And Finn Guy actually has lost about a car length off the 0-2.
So Teskar is running all by himself for the most part, and now the two old friends, Finn Guy and Sanders, back at it again. This time for second place here at Atlanta. We're on lap number 56. Pit stops are imminent, but as things run right now, this is going to be a real intense battle for this runner-up spot.
Right now we have 3 different manufacturers, 1, 2, 3. With the Toyota leading the Ford, and the Dodge in third.
First Chevrolet to speak of is Myles Mashburn in 11th, so you're right. Everyone else is having a strong run for the manufacturer game here at Atlanta. We're on lap 57. We're closing it. We got about 25 to go. And honestly, these pit stops are fast approaching, but at the rate they're going, I wouldn't want to come in until I absolutely needed to.
Absolutely. That's kind of how you want to run pit stops. You really don't want to come in unless you really absolutely have to for fuel reasons.
Although at this point in the race, with 57, now 58 laps run, fresh tires are going to mean something here because the pace has fallen off about maybe 3/4 of a second since they started this race. And you can see they're filing up to the top as we saw yesterday. So these guys are just hanging in there, waiting for the pit stops to start. You'll know when they do start because you're going to see guys duck to the bottom of the racetrack to make for pit road. But right now they're content to run on the top groove, just hang in there until the stops.
You're not really seeing, although Finn Guy is kind of closing back up that gap to the 0-2, you're not seeing, there's not a sense of urgency to pass somebody at this point because you know you're getting close to the pit stop, although a spot or two could help you going into the pit stop. You're just trying to make sure and maintain, as I believe Taskar is coming this time.
Yeah, we knew this was coming. He was leading the entire way through that first run, and he is the first of the leaders to hit pit road. You see Brian Grigsby making his Superstar Series debut, your teammate in the Truck Series, making his first career Superstar start in the 69 for Team Shocker Automotive, having a pretty solid day, just staying out of trouble. But yeah, a lot of the back markers were pitting, but Teskar, the first among the leaders to come in, and I expect more to follow.
Yeah, we'll see. I believe Finn Guy will be in this time. He is, as he ducks to the inside. That'll give up the lead to Lane Sanders.
Second week in a row, Lane Sanders has led under the pit cycle. So good on him to get the points he needs. He leads Daly and Fair, who have stayed on the racetrack. You see Mark Davey exiting the pits. He was among the first to come in as well. There's Teskar. He's going a lap down now, but he will cycle back onto the lead lap once all these guys pit. And I think Sanders is due in any minute now. Here he comes.
Yeah, we'll see. It looks like Fair is going to come in with Sanders. So we're going to get a couple of cars here on this one, as opposed to really what was kind of one leader at a time when they came those first 2 cycles.
Yeah, so Keon Daly and Dylan Young, they're staying out. We've got 21 laps to go. There's Finn Guy exiting the pits. So we're waiting for these two to make their stops, and once they do, we'll have a pretty good idea as to who's going to be at the front when it matters.
And of course, the comparison is going to be between, it'll be interesting to see between Sanders, Finn Guy, and Taskar, the way they came off or the way they peeled off. Which one of those is actually going to benefit off this? As the 71-29 also, even they are split their strategies as the 29 remains out for another lap.
Yep, so there's Lane Sanders exiting the pits. So Dylan Young has him a lap down, but Young's coming in this time now. There's no doubt in my mind. And yes, here he comes. So
I believe he is actually the last of the leaders.
that is correct. So here is Lane Sanders getting back up to speed. Looking now, there's Cale Tescar Jr. I think Sanders has jumped the 02 in the pit lane and the 92. So I think Lane Sanders could be your race leader when this is all said and done. Because
Well, the 02 with had a good run going there to try to catch to him, but
there's the 18 exiting the pits. He wasn't a factor.
41 will be your beat.
Actually, no, it'll be Keon Daly. Keon Daly's going to take the lead because he pitted after Sanders. And if this trend holds true, I think Dylan Young's going to be able to jump all of them. So a very chaotic cycle of pit stops that has resulted in the leading running order being completely shuffled up. You see Jason Parker exiting the pits now. But you see Sanders now ahead of Tescar, but behind Keon Daly. Let's see where Dylan Young cycles out. This could be Dylan Young's day if he can hang on. There he is, and he's going to have a pretty handy lead exiting the pits. We'll see how this all cycles out.
And we'll see how it cycles out, but we'll see if they can get a run on this 29 or not. Because the 29 is going to be the leader. It's just going to be a matter of...
Oh, we got trouble, though, on the racetrack. Caution flies. This could be a big break for everybody that is not named Dylan Young, because we have a caution on the speedway on lap 65, and it looks like we had a big incident on the back straightaway. Stephen Gale out of the race as a result of this crash. He is done for the day. Jason Parker with a lot of damage. Daniel Voiles, Anderson Reed, both of the Sinclair Canada Racing cars out of the race as a result of this. Echo Ross and Felix Anderson, both the Motor Dash Racing cars out of the race as well. This is going to shake up the running order, not in too big a fashion because we'd already finished our pit stops, but this was a big wrench thrown into this race that I don't think any of us saw coming.
Yeah, we saw a caution yesterday. They bunched the field back together, so... And again, it'll be interesting to see if we're going to have basically less than 20 laps to go, how they're going to race now that they've all pitted. They've got fresh tires. Will we see some 2 and 3 wide action again?
So it looks like this all starts with J.D. Martin in the 66. And I think it's going to start... Yeah, Jason Parker's exiting the pits, and Martin's too low on the track. They collide, and Martin's just an innocent bystander. And then Gale would just nowhere to go. And Reed collects into his teammate. That is going to be a rough meeting at Sinclair Canada Racing. Echo Ross with nowhere to go. Brian Grigsby of a good wreck avoidance, but Felix Anderson just barely clipped the side of the 35 and then rams the back of the 69 for good measure. This has just been an unfortunate circumstance for a bunch of teams who had both their cars knocked out. Motor Dash Racing has both their cars out now, as well as Sinclair Canada Racing, and Team Dayspring has one car out now. Robbers Racing has one car out now. That's just the case of a car coming up onto the racetrack and not much time for the cars that are already on the track to react.
It's just, again, wrong play. I called yesterday when we had the incident with the couple cars that we did that, wrong place, wrong time. Well, it kind of proved itself again today. Wrong place, wrong time when somebody pulls up, or in the case of when the 66 came back across the track. Just unfortunate for Gale that he was, again, wrong spot, wrong time, ran right straight into the back of the 66, and pretty much spells the end of his day.
Not just him, but his teammate, Anderson Reed, as well. Sinclair Canada Racing going home with very few points on the day. Same with Motor Dash Racing. Both of their cars, for each team, out of the race. But we've got them all lined up behind the safety car, and we're cycling. We got about 15 laps to go in this race. This is going to be an absolute sprint from here on out. Got Dylan Young leading the way, Keon Daly second. These are two Nitro National Series drivers, and as a result, they were in the race yesterday. So they know how to race the pack, albeit Dylan Young didn't get much chance to race in the pack due to his issues yesterday. But if he can come home with a Superstar Series win, that'll more than make up for the rough day he had yesterday.
Absolutely it will.
So as they run right now, Dylan Young leads, Keon Daly second, Lane Sanders still in the podium places in third, Cale Tescar Jr. right behind, the dominant driver of the day, in fourth. And looks like right behind him, Devin Fair rounding out the top five. Then you got Finn Guy in sixth, then Noto seventh, then Fisher, Vargas, Polanski rounding out the top 10. As the lights go out on the safety car, we will be going green next time around.
And what will be interesting is we've seen pretty much Tascar, Finn Guy, Fair, basically that were running as the top three for much of this race prior to the pit stops. They're going to restart this race basically 4 through 6. It'll be interesting to see if they can claw their way back up front, and we'll see if track position plays a key in who wins and loses this race. Is it going to be track position, or is it going to be a better handling car that comes through and is able to get it? As we saw yesterday, it seemed like once Alexa Lucian got up front that she was able to maintain from that point on.
But remember,
can Dylan Young do that?
But remember, the difference there is they ran the Nitro National drivers ran the entire distance without a pit stop. These guys are fresh off of one, and they've got fresh tires on all their cars. So they're going to be going a lot faster now, and I don't think it's going to be a resumption of the pack racing we saw at the start of the race. So I don't expect Dylan Young to hold the lead for very long. The question is, will he be able to get it back once he loses it?
Exactly. I think that's going to be the key is can somebody work the shuffle to their advantage here with what is essentially 14 laps to go.
So as the pace car rolls off, it leaves us in the hands of Dylan Young, Keon Daly, Lane Sanders, and the rest. Green flag back in the air. We're underway once again in Atlanta. And at this point, Young's got a pretty good position out in front, but I fully expect everybody behind to duck out. Here they go, the Kings Motorsports teammates of Daly and Tescar making a move.
As we saw, we'll see which lane works. It looks like the inside's going to get the advantage, and they are going to be able to go around Young. At least, both team cars are going to go around Young. So the 71 goes to the lead, the 02 to second. Looks like Fair going to try to follow the 02.
And any one of these cars still has a chance to win this race now, with 13 laps to go now. From Atlanta, I couldn't predict a winner. There's too many good cars up in the front. Even as far back as 12th, Myles Mashburn. He still has a chance. This caution was a big boost to him.
That's interesting there because although the 71 and 02 got by, Fair was not able to get around Young. Young was able to maintain third, Sanders fourth. And then you got the 92 of Finn Guy there in fifth. So while the 71 and 02 were able to snooker the 21 or the 29, nobody else was really able to get around the 29. So Young remains third. As it looks like will Tascar make a move? Nope. He tries to look low. He's got no help. Here comes the 29 back for second.
And imagine if Keon Daly gets his first career Superstar win in just his third start of the season. That would be an incredible story for Kings Motorsports, who's got him back in the Nitro National Series for 2023. But here comes Lane Sanders now to the top of Cale Tescar Jr., trying to get around for third spot. He got it at the line by a very slim margin. We'll see what he can do on the top as Tescar starts to fade a little bit.
I'm looking at this and I'm almost seeing a similar thing to yesterday. I think the top lane is still the preferred lane unless you have help on the bottom. Now, what I think was brilliant that the 02 and 71 did on that restart is they took advantage of the bottom right off the bat. They got together and right off the bat they made the move.
You say the top's an advantage, but look at Christian Vargas go.
Yeah, look at Vargas, yeah.
He powered around his teammate on the bottom with no help, and now he's getting around Sanders for third. Where was this speed in the Christian Vargas car this entire race? Now he's battling with Dylan Young for second. I think this 54 could be a real contender now.
And he's actually going to slot in there third, just behind the 29, between the 29 and 50.
Yeah, and while this was happening, we had two more cars knock the wall down. Sam Donato and Myles Mashburn. They're falling through the field. This could be huge for the championship, because as Vargas makes a meteoric rise to the front, Myles Mashburn tank slaps the wall and falls out of the top 10. So this could be a huge shakeup in the points, as now Vargas gets up onto the outside of Young, and Vargas scrapes the wall a little bit in his bid for racing glory.
He didn't lose the momentum, as the 93 also slaps the wall off too, but the 54 didn't lose any momentum. He's still right up there behind the 29.
The aggression is picking up at the close of this race. Now Vargas gets underneath Dylan Young for second spot, and he's going to make the move on the inside with no help whatsoever. Vargas with an incredible drive up to second from ninth on the restart, and he's going for more.
54 car go.
He's going for more. He's looking to erase the deficit to Myles Mashburn. It was 21 points going into this race. As things run right now, he'd only be 4 points out of the championship lead if he finishes right here, but I'm sure he'd love to get that win. And he's on the inside of Keon Daly right now for the race lead, coming to, oh gosh, got 7 laps to go in this race, and I still don't know who's going to win it.
Vargas just basically said, I know my championship rival's in trouble. I'm going to take full advantage of this, and he has taken the lead here with 6.5 laps to go.
What a drive from Christian Vargas. The question is now, can he hold it for the rest of the day? Because Keon Daly does have a fast car. Dylan Young's got a fast car. Of course, Cale Tescar Jr. is back there. He's got the fastest car, I feel, other than Christian Vargas. But we now have 6 laps to go, and Christian Vargas starting to pull away a little from the 71. Where has the single car speed come from the Revolution Racing team?
I think the turning point is that pit stop. We mentioned the pit stop. We said we didn't see this in yesterday's race because they didn't pit yesterday. Whatever they did to that 54, it has definitely come to life. And he is pulling away from that 71. This might be Vargas's race.
And you see Jake McMillan all by himself. He is well off the pace. He's barely running in the 150s, while Vargas is running in the high 170s to low 180s. So they're going to catch McMillan before the end of this race. Could that be a factor in deciding the outcome? We now have 4.5 laps to go, and Christian Vargas is just setting sail out front. Look at the lead he's built.
I'm telling you right now, Vargas is going to look back on this day. If this ends up being the race that defines the championship at the end of the season, he's going to look back on it and say, I guess you could say, baby, he wouldn't want to hear, you know? What a run from this 54 late in the race, and with 4 laps to go, he's got a 1.1 second lead and pulling away.
And look at Sam Denoto. He's made a charge up to second spot from outside the top 10 as Vargas easily laps past the 21 of McMillan, coming to 3 laps to go. Sam Denoto up to second. He must have made the right adjustments too. He's going to try and make a charge with only 3 laps left. This is an enthralling race from start to finish, as you can see the pace differential between McMillan and everyone else. Everybody makes it past him cleanly though. 3 laps to go.
What a run for this 54 bunch, and this is a team that we thought we didn't think they were going to gain anything. They were so close in position to Mashburn, and here he puts on this late charge, and with 2 laps to go, he's leading this race by basically 1.5 seconds. So whatever they did on that pit stop, it's definitely paid out here so far.
We are now coming to 2 laps to go. We are on 2 laps to go. Myles Mashburn still being held up by the lap traffic. This is critical in the championship battle. And Cale Tescar Jr. doing everything he can to keep from losing more ground. Sam Denoto starting to close in on the 54, but it might be too little too late. Coming to the white flag this time, I think Christian Vargas, barring any calamity, has got his win once again.
As he takes the white flag, we saw it was car number 50 that won yesterday's race. Looks like it could be car number 54. How about Toyota about to maybe go 1-2 in this race?
1-2-3 with Keon Daly.
Possibly, yeah.
Now down the back straightaway for the final time, Christian Vargas looking for his 2nd championship in a row. He won the title last year on the strength of 5 wins. This will be his 3rd win of the season this year if he can hang on, and it will be a big win because it's the 9th of his career. It will tie him with Jeffrey Finguy on top of the world for the all-time wins list in the 1-Up Superstar Series. Christian Vargas gets the win at Atlanta in a thrilling late race charge, but I think if this race had gone a few laps longer, Sam Denoto would definitely have caught him.
Well, yeah, he would have definitely had to battle those double zeros. Both these cars came on strong late. And the 71 makes it 3 Fords in the top 3.
3
And
Toyotas.
where did the 17 car come from?
That's another
Where
car
did
who
these
must have
come
made
from?
some big gains in the final few laps. Nelson Reeves jumped up to 5th. Lane Sanders 6th for the second week in a row. Cale Tisco Jr. fell to 7th
It's
at
still
the
a
end.
good run for that 70, for that 41 bunch. There.
Absolutely.
You get back-to-back top 6 finishes.
Ramian Fisher 8th ahead of Justin Hutchinson 9th, and Jeffrey Finguy running out the top 10. This at the finish, Christian Vargas now holds a 1-point lead over Myles Mashburn heading to Texas next week. And this is going to be a battle of epic proportions for this championship. Will it be Mashburn getting the first title of his career, or will it be Christian Vargas going back-to-back?
I tell you what, you got to tip your hat to that 54 bunch, because if they do end up pulling this title off at the end of the year, defending their title, they're going to look back at this race and point to this race and say, this is where we want it. What a late race charge for that bunch to be able to come up to the front from basically, they were what, 9th? They were 8th place. We saw them 8th or 9th just after the pit stop. And they charged their way up there and got it. And props to them today. And those other guys, too. The 00 ended up 2nd. The 17, who was, I think, nowhere in this race, came back to finish with a top 5 finish. So
absolutely.
What a lot of great race drives.
So from Ryan Griffin and from myself as well, we say goodbye from Atlanta. We'll see you again next time at Texas Motor Speedway for race number 28. Congrats to Christian Vargas. He's taken the points lead back with just 3 races remaining in the 1UP Superstar Series season.